As Tessa Desiderio was sitting there trying to collect the words to start her story, she was staring at two beautiful boys, ones that she had created. The two little boys that she was told would be a struggle for her to have. The two that named her Mommy. She finds it fitting that she's letting in everyone to listen to her story of how those two vibrant boys came from a damaged, yet reborn, body. She wants to reiterate to the world that life is a miracle. She was just 11 years old. Like other 11-year-olds, she too was teetering from the age of the toys to boys, jump rope, cheerleading, just to name a few. She loved to always be outside, though. After the completion of their homework, the 11-year-olds were able to remain outside till the streetlights came on. Over the course of a couple of months, strange occurrences started happening with Tessa. She would bang her leg in an activity or just flat out roughhousing. She even consulted her pediatrician, who told her mom, "She'll be okay, sounds like growing pains." But it was getting significantly worse. She remembers playing around in the house with her brother, the dog, and her stepdad. Well, one thing led to another, and her stepdad bumped her leg, and she burst into tears. The pain she felt was unbearable. She knew it raised concern in her mom, but the doctor said it was growing pains. So it had to be that way, right? Little by little, she would wake up every day for school, and the pain would get worse to the point where she remembered once her leg just felt stiff. She woke up in tears because it took a good couple of minutes for her to be able to bend it. That morning, while going to school, Tessa felt the pain with every bend of her knee. Something just wasn't right. Her mom called the doctors again, and they set up an MRI. Finally. She remembered after just sitting there with her mom waiting for the okay to go. They got all the images they were looking for. She had a follow-up appointment shortly after with her pediatrician. She vaguely remembered answering a few questions that the doctor asked her. Then, the doctor said if it was okay with Tessa if she talks to her mom alone for a few minutes. At that point, Tessa had no clue what was going on. What would an 11-year-old know? From that point on, she remembered visiting hospitals. Still, she was unaware of what was happening. From what she had learned, the hospital she went to was actually a second opinion her mom had lined up for her, but she was happy with their plan, that she just wanted to get things moving too quickly. She had a biopsy done on her leg. Bandaged, she was sent home to recover. It was nothing big to handle. She thought she was good. But 10 days later, she was sitting before the surgeon. When he was done, he stood in front of her and explained as simply as he could to an 11-year-old that she had cancer. Osteogenic sarcoma on her right femur bone, to be exact. She started crying. She remembers her dad and stepdad sitting across her and her mom right there beside her, hugging her for comfort. She didn't quite understand what it meant, but she knew it wasn't a good thing by everyone's reaction. Once she was diagnosed, things happened fast. Looking back, it feels like such a whirlwind. She was admitted to the hospital. She had a central line, or port, inserted into her chest to admit the chemotherapy into her body. She remembered when she was admitted to the hospital for the first time, she had long brown hair, and she loved her hair. The doctors and nurses explained the side effects of chemo and how she would be losing her hair. Maybe she would want to think about cutting it short so that when it falls out, it doesn't seem like much. So she did. No big deal. But then it started happening. Morning after morning, she would wake up and another clump of hair would be in her pillow. Or when she would brush her hair, more than average would be coming out. It was a very vulnerable thing to feel at 11, when all she wanted was to be a girl and do her hair in braids and barrettes every day. She remembers people saying she should have just shaved it off, but no way. She was holding on to every last strand. She didn't care. She remembered visiting home one day and her mom taking her out to the front yard and taking a few pictures of her before all of her hair completely came out. Looking at the pictures now, she chuckles to herself. Really, Tess? That ponytail is holding on to a couple of strands. How silly. But it wasn't to her then. Made her feel like a girl still. Like normal. Like her. Anything that made her close to a bit of normalcy was important to her. A month after that, she was so sick from the chemotherapy that she had to get a feeding tube inserted into her stomach. She couldn't keep anything down, along with the spurts of throwing up blood. She was on so many different types of chemo, and one being the strongest. Her treatment got so intense, she basically ended up living in the hospital. At first, she was lucky to get a room of her own. For the first month or so, she was in and out while they were trying to figure out the different chemotherapy amounts to be given to her. After some time, realizing how severe her treatment would have to be, she had her own private room. 99% of the time it was the same one. The nurses and housekeeping would keep the room open for her if she went home for the day. They wanted her to feel special, she guessed, while she was going through that crazy period of time. Oh, and yes, she said, day. Actually, she was lucky if she got a chance to be in her home for 1 or 2 nights each week. When she was getting the type of chemo she had, one had to be closely monitored. Her week went somewhat like this. Treatment started on a Monday, finished around Wednesday evening, then her urine was tested every time to make sure the chemo was coming out. She wasn't allowed to leave the hospital until her urine was clear of the chemo. And because of that, she was lucky to be able to get home by a Saturday or Sunday, but ended up back at the hospital by Monday morning. Admissions is forever embedded in her mind. About a month or 2 into the chemotherapy treatments, Tessa remembers a meeting being held. They were all sitting around in a conference-type setting. Big round table, her family, doctors, and papers, pamphlets, and videos. It was a meeting to talk about how to get rid of the tumor for good. Her team of doctors were amazing. They explained everything so thoroughly, and explained the pros and cons of each procedure. One, she remembers quite vividly, was to undergo a rotationplasty. It's where the lower part of your limb is rotated 180 degrees and attached at the hip. If you could picture it, the foot and heel would act as a knee, which she has personally seen, and in her opinion, it seems people have great mobility by getting this procedure. However, after a quick consideration, she knew right away it was not for her. But the other procedure was amputation. They would cut a path above where the tumor was to ensure a clear margin of any chance for the cancer to come back. She thought her parents wanted to give her some sort of power by giving her the chance to decide what she wanted to do. After all, it's her body. So they wanted her to make the decision. She caught the vibes of everyone, though. Some were leaning toward the amputation. Some were completely against it because she thought they just feared the unknown of how her life would turn out. But even in her 11-year-old mind, she thought, if she can just get rid of her leg and never have to go through that trauma again, why not? They showed her pictures of people who went on to live great lives, explained that she'd be able to walk again, run again, play sports, have kids, etc. She just felt that was the best option for her. September 29th, 2000 came. A day that she remembers a bunch of small things, but probably nothing in the correct order. Her whole family was there. She means everyone in her family. Her family is huge to begin with, and every event was like a holiday, and this one seemed to be no exception. Parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, they were all there. One thing she remembers is waiting to go into the operating room. Everyone was wishing her good luck while fighting back the tears. She was young, but she knew her family was just pretending to be strong. They were getting closer to the time of the surgery, and she, more than ever, did not want to leave her mom's side. She had had small in and out surgeries leading up to this, but this was entirely different. This was serious stuff that she would be undergoing, and she knew it. Again, her parents, doctors, and nurses didn't hide anything from her, so she always knew what to expect. Her mom had bought her a teddy bear. The gift shop was her favorite spot in the hospital, and roaming into the cafeteria on days she wasn't profusely getting sick. There was that purple teddy bear in the shop one day. Purple was her favorite color. It was so soft and pretty. Remember when she said in the beginning of her story that she was at the age of getting out of toys? Yeah, she was. But sometimes, at any age, certain things can give one comfort. Princess was right by her side. That's what she had named her, the Princess. And her mom was there with her. Her mom was so strong. She never looked into her eyes and thought, wow, she looks scared, even though she was sure that she was. She never allowed her to see that. She definitely realizes now that it was from her mom where she got her emotions, in a good way. Tessa was nervous for sure, but she was more nervous about leaving her mom. She was with her during every second of her journey since day one, and she literally became her best friend. She wanted her face to be the last thing she saw before she drifted into oblivion under anesthesia. She doesn't exactly remember what happened after that, but the memory of sitting there with Princess and her mom before getting groggy is embedded in her mind, and that's what matters most to her. The hours passed. She remembered it was dark outside. Trying to open her eyes was such a struggle. She heard people talking. She also heard people crying around her. So, needless to say, she was determined to open her eyes to figure out what was going on. She remembers the pain. Lots of it came in intervals, but it was too soon to feel anything regarding a missing leg. She was hooked up to a monitored morphine drip. She'd press it every time she felt the onset of pain. Her parents came over to greet her, giving her hugs and kisses. Her dad recalls a line, "Dad, I did it." That little 11-year-old girl had a better mindset than most adults. How amazing. Recovery wasn't through. 3 more months of intense chemotherapy was in the books, along with recovering from the amputation, being confined to a wheelchair, and eventually learning how to walk all over again. Halloween happened, and it was spent in the hospital. Thanksgiving and Christmas also followed, but thankfully she was at home those days with her family. In the middle of all this craziness, she didn't remember much, little things here and there, and then January bloomed. She was still being monitored closely, but her official remission date was January 3rd, 2001. Tessa, she herself and her, is cancer-free. The year of 2001 was a new year of the new Tessa, literally. She focused on becoming stronger while learning how to walk with a prosthesis. Her first one was considered a starter leg. It was as real, or fake in this case, as it got a metal pole, a place for the limb to go into, covered with a sock-type material, and a generic foot. It didn't bend at the knee or anything. It was specifically designed for her to gain strength and mobility, to feel like what it's like to stand on 2 feet again after 3 months of not being able to. She remembers February vividly, not because it was her first birthday after the surgical rebirth, and not because she had a party at her dad's house. The coolest thing for her wasn't the party itself, the presents, okay, maybe a little, or the awesome Destiny's Child's cake she had. Yes, she was obsessed with them from the no days. The coolest thing for Tessa was being able to put that starter leg on and greet people at the door with 2 legs. It was so empowering for her to feel put together, especially because she was still growing her hair back, so peach fuzz was it for her. It didn't last long, or all day for that matter, but being able to have something to stand on was the best feeling that she'd experienced. There were countless times of frustration and anger, but never once did she think, "I give up." Yeah, she spent a lot of time secluded, crying, embarrassed, and feeling sorry for herself. Everything one could imagine. Yeah, she entered middle school, then high school, and yes, people had things to say. Some people didn't have very nice things to say at all. But she quickly made a great group of friends in 6th grade, and those girlfriends still speak with her today. She's been asked for almost 2 decades now why she walks the way she does. And before, she would give the answer in a, "How dare you ask me such a question?" kind of way. But now, the answer is very different. She loves talking about it. She loves showing off her leg when she wants to. The point is, all through the depression state, listening to the things said about her, realizing the fact that she had 1 leg, didn't stop her from seeing dreams. For almost 15 years, she spent herself hiding. She never would show her leg. She always wore pants or long dresses to hide it. But she always had bigger and better dreams for herself. She might have not always thought those dreams would come true, but she didn't care. She was just like everyone else. As every year passed and the older she got, the more she realized that her lack of didn't matter. She was determined to decide her life. She determined her fate. Being told things may not happen because of what she went through didn't matter to her. Her determination and decisions got her to where she was today. She was set on not letting cancer win, and she did it. She was set on not dying, and she did it. She was set on making the decision to have her leg amputated at the age of 11 because she knew she'd be able to learn how to walk again. And she did it. She was set on having kids one way or another, even if it meant treatments or even adoption. And by the grace of God, she has 2 miracle babies that she created. Like that 11-year-old said to her dad, "I did it." A few years ago, she started putting herself out there, branding herself on social media, and making a name for herself. If she'd wanted to be a part of inclusivity and diversity in modeling, she knew she had to take chances. She first got a chance to participate in a fashion show that showcased just that. The first ever Dreamwalk fashion show gave her the first opportunity that she'll forever be grateful for. Because of the show going viral with several million views, she was personally featured in a lot of publications and articles. She even started her own YouTube channel and finally got a chance to model, which was her dream. Now she loves the fact that at the age of 32, she looks more beautiful and sexier than ever. She almost can't believe that she used to let so many things get into her. Yeah, cancer sucks. Really bad, in fact. Yeah, having one leg may not be ideal sometimes, especially when her kids want to do crazy activities. But she was given a second chance to live. Why would she keep wasting time and energy on the "I can't" rather than the empowered "I can"? She has her children and will have grandchildren to tell her story to the world one day. She's finally realized what her purpose here is on Earth. She's here to inspire. If she gets to help one person through their journey, inspire just one, God made her purpose worth it. She doesn't just give, she gets as well. And even after 20 years, she is so proud to say to the little 11-year-old in her mind, "Thank you for not giving up." Guys, like, share, and get loads of inspiration from Tessa Desiderio. Guys, cancer sucks. Fight it, finish it, and say, "I did it," like Tessa Desiderio. Support the fighters, admire the survivors, and never give up your hope and fight against cancer like Tessa Desiderio.